This is Scott once again from Comic Book Hangover. It is Thursday, and once again, that does mean that there's a weekly haul video to go through. So, I don't really have a lot of time today, so we're going to have to go through this as quickly as I can. So, let's start with this week's pickups, then we're going to get into the back issues that I'm going to have to put up on my wall to fill in the space. So, first up is going to be Go-Go Power Rangers number 22 as part of the Necessary Evil storyline, where after the events of Shattered Grid, things are still not quite as put back together as they should be. So you got all kinds of Rangers and all kinds of new characters, and even Lord Zed showing up, and it's an interesting story. I haven't really decided whether or not I like it, but it is entertaining, so I'm gonna go with it. I read Mighty Morphin Power Rangers regularly. Go-Go I only read when it crosses over, so that's just a temporary thing for me to be buying this. But the Necessary Evil storyline, it's not firmly established what we're doing with it, but it is still entertaining. Next up, Gwenpool Strikes Back, number 1 of 5. Now, it's no secret that I'm a huge fan of Gwenpool. I really enjoyed her first series, and it really showed the irreverence that you can have in a comic book, and just the other ridiculousness that you can have with a specific character. This series, however, goes in the exact opposite direction. I don't think I laughed once during this, and there's a page in there where she's doing some stupid dances and making some stupid pose or something. I have no idea really what was going on here. I know the point of the story is she's trying to remain relevant, but it's almost like they've given her these abilities, these powers where she can go between panels and she can go into the gutter space to protect herself. They've done all these things without really planning out what it means for the character. So this book very much fell flat. It was a very big disappointment for me. I do like the cover for it. I was going to pick up one of the other variants next week when I went back to my LCS, but it's not going to happen. I'm actually going to be dropping this one from my pull list. I'm not going to finish it. Even the completist in me has no interest in reading the rest of this series. It was just... Clearly, it was written by somebody who wasn't really familiar with Gwenpool and what she is. So, dances that I don't know, references to things that I have no idea. Yeah, it was just a bad book all the way around, unfortunately. But again, the cover is really cool. If I could find a print for this cover, I'd definitely pick it up. So, if you're a fan of Gwenpool, I'd say pass on this one. As much as I hate to say it, but that's the way it is. Laurel and Hardy number 2, not as funny as the first issue, but still very entertaining. It's still written in a way that as you're reading it, especially if you're a fan of Laurel and Hardy, as you're reading it, you can hear their voices. So very well done. And just like with their shorts and their movies, not every joke is gonna hit dead on. Sometimes they're gonna fall a little flat. Happened in this issue more than the first issue, but still worth getting. I really enjoyed it. I was not really disappointed with it. Once and Future number 1. This one I picked up because the story seemed kind of interesting, and the cover was pretty cool. And it turned out to be a pretty fun read. I mean, apparently this is a hard book to find. My LCS only had one copy left. We looked up future, what reprints are coming out, and found that they've already solicited up to a 4th printing for this book. It's insane. But if you can get it, great read, very entertaining. It's about this... lady here and her grandson. She's in an old folks home. Series of events happen as she finally reveals to her grandson that she's sort of like an occult hunter. She says she hunted vampires until there were no vampires no more vampires left to hunt. She has a firm grasp of the situation that's happening involving the sword. Has to deal with Excalibur, King Arthur, who apparently is not the good man that we've always been led to believe in the stories, but I don't know if this is an ongoing or a miniseries. I looked at future solicitations. There's no, number 1 of 5, number 1 of 6. So I guess it's being treated as an ongoing. I'm gonna check out the next couple of issues because this one was really good. If you can't find the first issue, there is a second issue coming out. It's definitely worth checking out. I actually did, I may have picked up the second, and I saw the cover for the 3rd print. And the 3rd print has a pretty sweet cover of the dude on the back of a horse. So, but if you can find it, check it out. Sharky number 5. It's a miniseries written by Mark Millar. It's a really fun book. It's sort of like a Lobo-esque type character. He's starting to get more more open to being nice to people, which is kind of weird. But it's a fun series. I mean, I've talked about this a number of times before, at least 4 other times before. So I'm not sure what more I can say about it. It is still entertaining. We've got one more issue to go. I'm very curious to see where it ends, and very curious to see if Millar is going to do anything more with it. But good fun book. And I'm going to do a little sneak peek here. Okay, got one more after this one for the new issues that I picked up this week. Symbiote Spider-Man number 5 of 5 wraps up the first miniseries. I guess this is going to be the first miniseries featuring Symbiote Spider-Man. This is Spider-Man shortly after he had gotten his black costume. Didn't know that it was a living organism. And through this issue here, he's fighting Mysterio. And the one thing that you'll notice is there's no jokes coming from Peter Parker in this. There's no jokes from Spider-Man at all, because he's basically asleep, and the suit has taken over his body and is doing all the motions and all the movements. So it's cool. Can't say for sure if I want to continue with it when they do the next one, but this was actually a very entertaining read. So Peter David did a good job on it. The last new book I picked up this week was actually a reprint. This week's facsimile edition, X Factor number 87. I got to admit, since I'm not much of an X-Men fan, I have to admit, I'm not really fully aware what the significance of this issue is. I always have liked the cover, though. This is one of those sort of iconic covers that you see everywhere when people are talking about this series. So I'm going to read it. I like reading these facsimile editions. It's nice being able to go back and check out books from the 70s, 80s, and 90s, back when Marvel Comics was around before it became Marvel Entertainment. Back in the day when it was Marvel Comics and it was more about the comic books and not so much about the movies. But these facsimile editions are pretty cool. These ones and the True Believers are making up a pretty good section of my comic book collection. So those are the new books I picked up. Here's the other books that are going to be rounding off the 12 spots on my wall. Excuse me, beginning with Adventures of Spider-Man number 12. This is the final issue of the series. This is one of two books that last week we had our county fair. And, of course, when I go to the county fair, the first thing I do is look for comic books. This is one of the two books that I grabbed. So I just like the cover. I saw this cover somewhere online. It was just a passing, going through different things. Just saw the picture of it. Didn't really see the significance of it, but it's Venom. It's Doc Ock. It's based on the 90s animated series. Good, fun stuff. So I had to grab it. It was only a couple of bucks. The other one I grabbed at the fair this week, Avengers, number 281. It was a She-Hulk cover, and I do enjoy me some She-Hulk. So I grabbed it. I'll check it out later. I also picked up this week Elvira Misses of the Dark number 7. This is the photo variant. My LCS the month of August is doing a buy one, get one free on select back issues. This was one of them. This was actually the one that I got for free because I purchased this one here. Mighty Morphin Power Rangers number 40. This is the unlocked story variant. I had really no idea this was going on. I tried not to pay too much attention to a lot of the variants for this story that they're doing, this Necessary Evil. But I wound up grabbing the second part of this. This is the first part. I do like these I can't remember what they call themselves. They're people that deal with the actual morphin grid, and I like how every panel they're switching, they're sort of morphing or phasing to different iterations of the Power Rangers. So they represent all of the Rangers. It's pretty cool. And finally, because I am reading it from issue 1 to issue 60, here's the Sensational She-Hulk number 4. This one introduces the character of Wheezy, her assistant, who was a blonde bombshell back in the timely days of Marvel. And it does explain some more of the mechanics of how comic books work and how basically they explain in this one here that as long as a character is being used, like She-Hulk, as long as she's being used, she won't age. But with the blonde bombshell, once her series ended and she wasn't brought back for any reason at all, her and her husband started to age. He died, and she figured that the best way to sort of extend her life is to figure out a way to become at least a supporting character in a current ongoing series. So she works her way into this book basically to save her hide, which makes sense. But she also does explain a little bit of the other mechanics of basically how you can use the panels to save yourself time, that sort of thing. So it was really actually a really fun issue. I think I've read this issue before, but very fun, very entertaining. So if you're looking for just something odd to read, I definitely recommend this specific issue of the Sensational She-Hulk. So those are all the books that I picked up this week. Let's go ahead and check out the wall. Okay, and here you go. Here's this week's wall. Once again, as I always like to say, when you go to your local comic shop, ask the people there for some sort of a recommendation. Try something new. Always good to try new books. Sometimes you'll be surprised, like with Symbiote, Spider-Man, and Sharky. I didn't think I'd really enjoy them as much as I am. Once and Future, perfect example of a recent book that I picked it up because I don't know, I'd heard some stuff about it. The cover looked cool, and I was able to snag myself a first print. And sometimes you're disappointed, like with Gwenpool Strikes Back. Great character, poorly written. That's unfortunate, but that's you win some, you lose some. So once again, that's this week's haul. Hope you enjoyed the video. And as always, if you like what you see, go ahead and like the video, subscribe, share, and definitely comment down below because we do like to have conversations here. And we will see you on Sunday for a signature haul video. See ya.